So you're thinking about betting on the favorites this week at the John Deere Classic? Well, how about the favorite? What to do with Sungjae Im and how great he's been playing. And Sepp Straka, the guy nobody's been talking about recently, he's been playing great. Chalk Duck time, Benny B. And what do you think about Sepp Straka? The fact that he clearly is playing great. Is it too great, though? I'm serious.
Well, the problem is that only one guy has repeated at the John Deere Classic, and he did it 3 years in a row in Steve Straka. Now we have to see if Sepp Straka can get it done. He did it as an outlier last year, starting off with an overpar round, the only player to win the John Deere Classic with an overpar round on the books. That is not going to happen this week, as we spoke yesterday in Roundtable. You need to go low every single day with a bit of a wet track out there. So, look, he's in form. He loves the joint. He showed 3 astonishing rounds. He could have shot 59 in the last round if not for a late mistake. I think he's sort of sneaking up on there. And look, he was at 20-1 to start the week, down to 16. He's a sneaky chance. He's a sneaky chance this week. He's got some reasonable numbers. You see there, ball striking, 25th on tour. He's just going to have to go low 4 rounds, not 3 this year.
And what you're looking at is our key stats, by the way, of what we picked as the most important trends from past John Deere Classics, what the winners did well. Of course, it's a week. If you're going to shoot 25 under par, you got to be lights out with the putter. That's where Straka's okay. If you're right around middle of the pack, you're going to do okay. Its ball striking clearly has been pretty good. Are you concerned, though, about, you mentioned being the first person ever at Deere Run to shoot over par and then win? My question about Sepp Straka is, okay, yeah, the guy has, 4 top 10s in his last 8 events. Straka has proven, albeit being a younger guy, that he gets hot and then he kind of just falls away and you don't see him for a while. He's been hot for a while. The question is, did we already miss it with Sepp Straka? And if he was going to win, would it have already happened by now?
It's a good point you raised there, Chris. Like, he's good in patches, right? And last year the patch happened to be around here. He played well and obviously won this. He went and played well at the Open afterwards as well. He seems to have had that purple patch, the couple of 5th places recently this season. And you see there, as I said, the part that I'm just slightly concerned about is the rounds in the 60 scenario there. He can go low. We know that. But he generally doesn't do it for 4 straight rounds. Generally, he does it for sort of 2 or 3.
Which is concerning here.
Yes, and see where it falls. But this year, with, as we said, a bit of rain and a wet, soft course, there is not going to be the chance to shoot 73 and win this golf tournament. I mean, short of, astronomical 61, 62, 61 or something the next 3 days and everyone else sort of falling away, I really do think you're going to have to be shooting sort of 66 and under every day if you want to have a chance this week at the John Deere Classic.
And if you're talking about that with Straka, it's really the exact same thing with the betting favorite in Sungjae Im. Because if we go back to Sungjae Im's, resume here, 4 top 10s in his last 6 starts. And look, I know you can continue to play well, but do you realize that Im is a lot like Sepp Straka? They're both young guys. They both have won before. They both are playing really well right now. But again, just like Straka, Ben, Sungjae Im does the same thing. He plays really well, and then he falls off the face of the earth, and you wonder where has he been the last 6 months. So it's the same question. You wonder if he's got so many top 10s in the last 2 months, was it already going to happen? Is his time over? I think that's the stuff we got to be concerned about with these 2 guys, because they could miss the cut this week for all we know if their streak's over.
He should win. He's the best player in the field, right? If you go to talent level and whatnot at the current time. The way that they are playing in the trending scenario he's in. But I have doubts how he plays as the favorite. I know that shouldn't be something necessarily that should bother people, but it does. Certain players, when they have the expectation of winning, treat it differently. They don't mean to, but it's a subconscious thing. And Sungjae Im is one of those guys that I worry that, with all this sort of quote unquote pressure around the fact that he should win this tournament, I could sense some frustration coming in. And when you're in a birdie fest, if you have a little bit of frustration, that can be the difference between winning and not winning. We saw it last week with Cam Young. When the frustration got into his game, he fell away. He was lapped and beaten. So Sungjae is going to have to be really patient. He's going to have to keep racking up birdies, and if they're not happening, he's going to have to stay, mentally strong which hasn't always been a great strength of his in the past. When things aren't going well, they can sort of spiral for him. So it's a huge first round for Sungjae Im, and that's why we talk about we're here to talk about how to bet the favorites. For me, at just 1,200 now, it's not a play to begin with. It's a wait and see. It's see how he goes in the first round. Decide whether or not you think he's got it. You might lose a little bit of value, but you're gonna have a better understanding if he's gonna close this thing out, and you can still jump on board and maybe collect some cash that way.
I'd say same thing with Straka too. Just wait and see. Regardless of the short odds on either of these guys, I just don't see them right off the bat playing well. Maybe wait till Saturday. Yeah, the number's probably going to go down a little bit, but the reality of them winning on Saturday when they're in contention is a better bet and a safer play, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. I don't really think, we talked about this again yesterday, and my column this week is more about this is a long shot week, right? Pre-tournament. If you're going to put something on pre-tournament, you sprinkle on the sweet spot, I called it, between 50 and 100 to 1.
Yeah.
You go 9 players in there that you can make an argument for that might have a chance to win. And obviously, if they start well, those odds are going to be slashed, and then you might have missed that opportunity. These favorites that we're looking at, the top of the board, I feel like you can almost wait and see for all of them, right? You can wait and see how they play. Yes, you're going to drop from 16 or 18 to 10, 12, 8, 7 to 1 by then, but you're still going to have a better understanding on how they're going and still have an opportunity to cash something decent. You're not going to have that opportunity if your 90 to 1 shot goes out and shoots 61 on the first day. You're not going to see that anywhere close to that number again. So, I feel like it's one of those weeks. As you know, I like Denny McCarthy this week.
He's your pick.
I'm looking at that ball striking number and starting to waver a little bit, because if you look at Straka, Rye, and Spieth there, for instance, they've all got decent ball striking numbers, not great putting numbers, but it's average putting, and they just need to have a good week putting. That can happen for anyone we know on tour. Anyone can get hot for 4 days with the putter. That's a possibility for them. I need McCarthy to hit it above average for 4 days and still make all his putts. Yes, he can do it.
Which is tougher to do, though. Getting a hot putter is easier than figuring out your ball striking for 4 days if it's an issue for you.
Correct. And look, I'm not saying it's an issue for him. I'm just saying he is not as good as the rest of the tour, obviously. When you get in that 159, 160 range, that's a little bit too far down below the average tour level that you need him to have a good week, right? If he just has his regular week like this, if he is 100th, 110th this week in ball striking, he won't win, no matter how well he putts, right? So he's going to need to lift his game in that regard. Another player who, if I was throwing down the cash, I would probably wait. Definitely the guy next to him too, Spieth. That's a wait and see for sure.
Yeah, you want to get into Spieth here? Just give me one more second on Denny McCarthy, because no matter who we're talking about, Spieth, McCarthy, any of these guys, I think the important thing to stress on these stats, we can tend to get overthinking on stats. But you brought up a perfect example. Like that range, like some of these guys being 100th, 90th, they're about average on tour. It's not that big of a deal. When you start to get farther down the list of some of these concerns, your 160th, 170th, that's when you start to have issues with these players you want to pick. And McCarthy, I agree. The way he hits the ball, I think he's a little bit below where he should be if he's going to contend every week. You don't need to have great numbers every week. Your stats don't need to be popping on basically anything. They just need to be good enough. And like you said, I'm not sure McCarthy's ball striking and many other stats with his irons, his driver, whatever you want to call it, is good enough to seriously take him at 22 to 1. Now, you're talking about Jordan Spieth, okay? His numbers have been fine. They've been average. You could say rounds in the 60s, he's been pretty good. He's doing that more and more often. But here's the thing with Spieth, Benny, okay? 0 top 10s in his last 9 starts. His only 2 top 10s in 2024 were at the very beginning of the year.
Yep. He's just not the same guy, is he? He's just not the guy that we're used to. And as much as I want to see him go well, he's a 2-time winner here. And he's always popular. And it's essentially reputation that has his odds at 22 to 1. Mind you, he has gone completely the other way. We've had players come in on the odds because we had some big, we had Cantlay withdraw early in the week. That brought odds down. Spieth, despite all this, has just been going up the odds board.
He was like 16, I believe, on Monday.
Correct. He was 16. He's up to now 22 to 1. And look, he's still the second most bet on player in this field, but just they're not getting the juice they thought they might get. They know that normally Spieth fans love to jump on board, love to throw the cash in, hope that he regains the magic. But the reality is they haven't bit. They haven't really bit this week. Yeah. That's why the odds are going up. I would still be waiting. I would still just sit back and go, look, if he wins at 22-1 and we sit back next week and go, how do we miss it? He won there twice. He's such a superstar. I'm not going to be that concerned about it. I don't feel like I've missed the boat too much because at 22-1, we spoke about this before, we can handle the 50-1 range with Jordan Spieth. We can say he'll win every 50 times he plays, and maybe then it's worth a unit every time to get that 50th time. 22, nah. He's not winning every 22 times. He's just not.
Well, he hasn't. He used to. And clearly he's not that player anymore. And I'm not even talking about 2015. I mean, 3-4 years ago, he was winning maybe once every 22 times.
Yeah.
I would stay away from all place markets on Spieth. Because once you get to, top 40, you're in minus money. What's the point? I think what you should be focused on with Spieth, find birdie markets. Find over-under on his score for a random day if you think he's going to bounce back from a poor round or vice versa. Find the birdie markets. The guy's going to make birdies, but guess what? He's going to make bogeys too. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea. If you can get, obviously tournaments like this too, you get first round and second round specials. If you get an over-under on birdies, absolutely, that's the place to look for Spieth and ride the wave and have some fun that way. You can also look at him in head-to-heads because sometimes he'll be the underdog and you might just have some fun. Like it's fun to watch him and ride it with him. But you'll probably, you might end up losing on the last hole bogey or something when he's he'll end up in the gutter of the clubhouse or something ridiculous, and you'll be riding it with him. But it does allow you to have some fun. And again, I'm going to harp back to my own column this week where this is a week for you to have less money out there.
It is.
Don't go all in. Do not go big on this week. You can have one chalk player, which is, when I say chalk, I'm talking even up towards 40-1. Pick one of those guys, ride them in, but then sprinkle small unit size, even $1 on the outright market for guys that are in that 50 to 100 range, because I honestly feel like I brought it down to, I think, 8 guys in my column in that range that I think that legit have a chance. I think I could have made it 16 guys in that range.
I probably could have made it even more than that.
Yes.
And, so you're talking about it's a long shot week, and for different reasons, we're fading a lot of these chalk players. Im and Straka, we talk. Say that again?
We're fading them at the start of the week.
At the start, right? Yeah. That's the way to preface it. Fade them at the start of the week, then see what happens maybe on the weekend. The one we haven't talked about yet is Aaron Rai.
Yes.
But he seems such a massive wild card. And I don't want this to sound like it's a knock on Aaron Rai. Who in their right mind would have thought Aaron Rai would be the third betting favorite on a PGA Tour event this year?
Yeah. It shows the form he's in at the moment, right? He's a perennial place getter, if that makes sense. He's a guy that when he does contend, you can be pretty comfortable. If you've got a top 5 or top 10 on him and he's up there, you can feel like, okay, I think he can hold on for that scenario, or hopefully he's going to make it there. And you used to be able to get some good odds, but now because he's done it last week, he was top 5.
Yeah.
I did throw that one out there. Benny in the bet said Aaron Rai was your lock for top 5 last week at 5-1. So that was the one thing I did hit on last week. But I'm scared this week. Like it strikes me as like Tom Kim from the week before to the last week, right? Playing well, but it eventually is going to drop. He's got to make 20, 30, 25, 26, 27 birdies again this week. It's hard to do back to back when you've been in that furnace of competition, when you've been up there and about. This is such a small thing, but look at Batia's finish. Finally, it sort of got to him at the end with those nerves. He'd been flying for 2 weeks, and then the adrenaline dump just came when he didn't need it, and fell off the radar there and finished second. I would love Aaron Rai this week if he was 30-1. I don't like him at 18-1.
So before we go, I want to actually revisit. I'm trying to pull it up here right now. I want to revisit our conversation from Monday. Okay, about the guys who won here recently. You see him, Straka, Poston, and Lucas Glover. I think the more we talk about this throughout the week, Ben, I really think there's something to playing good enough in the last handful of months before this week not needing to play great, I still think it's more relevant than ever. Which brings in your 16 long shots.
Correct. I think when you go there, you're looking at guys who have sort of been trending towards, the old trope in golf, I'm so close, it's right there, etc. But I think that's the case. I think if you will find a very similar form line when we eventually get a winner on Sunday. We'll go back and look at what they've done in the last month, 2 months, and you will get a very similar line to what you see on these three players. You'll get maybe the odd top 10, a couple of top 25s or whatever it is. It's a couple of a miscut there, but mostly made cuts. I absolutely think that somebody is going to pop out of that bracket I mentioned, and you're still going to go, oh, I should have got that, or I should have known, but yet it's still hard to do. So it's very interesting. This time of year, you've got so much on the line, right? You've got so much. You've got FedEx Cup playoff predictions and where else they're going to fall. You've got other guys thinking about the Scottish and the Open Championship that they've got to worry about. Some players even have got the Olympics on their radar that's coming up. But a lot of guys need to, strike while the iron's hot. They have to go well now if they want to have any idea of getting into the playoffs. They need to play well in the summer of these events. I think there's only like 6 or 7 events left, right, before we hit playoffs. And then other guys who are 125, 140, 145th on the FedEx Cup, they need to get into the 125 so that when they go to the FedEx Cup fall, they're not way behind the 8 ball.
That plays more into your whole, mantra this week of don't fade the favorites, just wait on the favorites.
Wait on the favorites. Enjoy yourself. Sprinkle a little bit on the guys that are out there in the big numbers, and just enjoy the golf. It's summer. It's July 4 weekend. Happy 4th, everyone. Let's have a good time.